Nigerian Imperialism. Nigeria is located off the west coast of Africa.
The scramble for Africa, late in the 19th century, was the last great surge of European imperialism. Despite the gold and diamonds that made it profitable in southern Africa, imperialism in Africa as a whole yielded few economic returns. Instead, imperialism in Africa, requiring men, money, and equipment to hold territory and to make a tropical wilderness habitable, was a financial loss for many of the European countries that took part. What gains there were came in terms of international prestige in the years of intense European power rivalries before World War I. Acquiring colonies in Africa and elsewhere went hand in hand with the general military spirit in Europe at the time. The period of rampant European imperialism on the African continent did produce a few positive results. Europeans provided some education for African children. Europeans trained African administrators with the long-range objective of having Africans govern themselves. Europeans introduced various forms of modern industry and technology. Europeans set up medical services, trained African doctors and nurses, and developed vaccines against perennial African diseases. Most of these measures, however, were instituted by the colonial masters in their own interest. That they benefited some Africans as well was largely accidental. The deadliest legacy of imperialism has been the arbitrary national boundaries imposed by Europeans in the process of partitioning Africa for their own interests. For example, the British, solely for administrative convenience, drew borders forming Nigeria, borders which brought together three large and distinct tribal groups. The Hausas, who maintained an Islamic kingdom in the north, the Yorubas, inhabitants of warring city-states in the southwest, and the Igbos, with their democratic village cooperatives in the eastern part of the Niger Delta. Despite the glaring ancient divisions among these groups, Nigeria celebrated its birth in 1960 as a unified, independent state with a coalition government. Within a decade, this artificial arrangement broke down completely. The result was the Biafran War. European imperialism has left a lasting mark on the world as we know it today. The division between the richer, more developed nations and the underdeveloped nations, collectively known as the Third World, is basically a division between former imperialist countries and former colonies.
What was Nigeria like prior to imperialism?
Prior to imperialism, Nigeria had no centralized government, dispersed villages, and was very involved in the slave trade of West Africa. The Portuguese who ran the slave trade helped them start their communications to the rest of the world. They were also very involved in their agriculture and their agricultural products, which they were able to create various tools to help them improve their business, as well as they could build anything from farming hose to smelting bronze.
Were there any rebellions?
In fact, there were some rebellions in around the 1950s. Nigeria felt that they were a stronger nation and that they could rebel against British, which were a stronger empire, in fact. But they continued to fight, and by 1960 they became independent. Um, there were technological advances in imperialism, but the British scourged that. So when they became independent, what happened is they retrogressed in their advancements, and now currently they are not up to par with the rest of the world as far as their technology.
What were the benefits and costs of colonization?
One of the major benefits is that Nigeria became a stronger united nation, and they had a centralized government, which is mostly run by the military, and so that they're united, which is a great aspect to have in a country. That Britain introduced new methods of trade, creating a self-sustaining country economically. The different tribes communicated and traded with one another because of colonization, and because of this bond that they now have with tribes, their economy will improve, and is today. The different tribes had technological development had halted, though, because Britain was only interested in Nigeria's agricultural exports.
If the reactions to imperialism change over time, explain.
Well, when they were first imperialized, what happened is the Nigerians were semi-disappointed because they who used to be at the top of the food pyramid were now suppressed to the bottom because the Europeans came in and they were automatically put on top of the food pyramid. And from then on, they felt that England ignored them after multiple years, and so they had the power and strength within Nigeria to revolt against them, which is when they gained their independence in 1960.
Go.
If reactions are dependent on the socio-economic classes, explain.
Well, the old upper class of the Nigerians were now suppressed below the Europeans once they came in and imperialized, which made them unhappy because what used to be at the top of the food pyramid is now at the bottom.
If the reactions changed over time, explain.
At first, they accepted the fact that because England was superior to power, was a superior power, but they felt that once time went on, that England began to ignore them, and what happened is they felt the power to rebel, and they created strength within Nigeria and revolted.
Though Nigeria was imperialized by the great power of Britain, their technology and economic stance is still not in great condition today and was not improved by this colonization.
That's all, folks.